Hey guys, welcome to Freedom Homestead. I'm Jack. Today's video, we're going to talk about 8 practical tips to begin prepping. So these are just tips to help people that want to be more prepared in case of some sort of emergency that might come up, whether it's having no power, no water at home for a couple of days, storms, earthquakes, forest fire, anything that might really cause you to be able to only survive on what you already have stockpiled in your home. So these are 8 tips to begin that process, things to think about items and other objects that you will need to start this process. So tip number 1 is actually just start small. You don't have to think about prepping as I need to be able to live on my own for months at a time if the grid goes down and there's mass chaos and everything like that. Just start small. Do we have water put aside? Do we have food? Can we just make it for 24 hours? Push that on out to a 3-day thing, 72 hours. I need to get supplies for a 72-hour survival in our home. If you can do that for a 72-hour period, that is a really good, solid foundation to start on. Okay, so we'll do videos later about what items you need, like a 72-hour checklist. But we'll get into that later, but I just want you to think about that. So tip number 1 is just start off small. Let's start with that and be thinking about what items you would need and would I be okay for some sort of emergency for just to be out for 3 days. Tip number 2 is everyone thinks when you start prepping that you need all these fancy gadgets and items and everything, but really just start out with food and water. So tip number 2, food and water. You've got to have those. You really, those are must essential needs, food and water. And yes, there are other very important things out there that I would want. But number 1, I'm going to want food and I'm going to want water, and so would my family. So just think about that first. Again, we're just starting off small and we're thinking about how we should begin this process, okay? So a 3rd tip would be to know your skills and start developing those skills and maybe expand your skills. Learn other trades, not really a trade, but learn other skills that would help out in a crisis situation or an emergency situation. If you live on a homestead or a farm and you're really self-sufficient, you may have a generator as a backup power source. If it breaks, do you know mechanical work? Do you know electrical work? What about carpentry skills? Could you patch a roof if a storm blew a hole in the roof? Could you fix a fence or a tractor, or even simple things around the house, the cooking and the kitchen stuff, or campfire building? More first aid skills. How important would that be? It would be extremely important if you're on your own for several days, is to know your basic first aid and emergency skills. So be thinking about that as well. So tip number 4 would be know the area you live in. Know the weather. Do you live in a hot climate? Do you need to prep items to keep you cool if there was an emergency? What if you live in a very cold area climate? You need to, that's going to determine what items you're going to need to survive and keep you warm. Do you live in an area? We have a family that we're good friends with, and to get to their farm or homestead, they actually have to cross a low water forge across a little creek to get to their home. And if it rains a lot, that creek floods and they can't get in and out. So they're prepared for that. They know that that happens. They know it's going to happen a couple of times a year. And it could be, I talked to a family that had to evacuate one time because of a forest fire in their area. They made people leave. So it could be something you've never really even thought of. Earthquake. Do you live in Tornado Alley? What kind of storms and weather? If I needed to get to my parents' house, which are only 5 or 6 miles away from where we live here, there's about 4 different roads, 4 different routes I could take to get to their house. Every single one of those routes involved crossing a river. What if something happened where the bridges did not work, were gone? We would be cut off from them, or they would be cut off from us. So those are just things that I think about long term. But again, we're just trying to do 8 basic tips for beginners. But anyway, think about where you're located at, the terrain around you, and what's available in your area if you need it. Tip number 5 would be to have a plan B. What I mean by that is plan B would be, what if you have to leave your house and go somewhere else? Do you know where you're going to go? Do you have a go bag? Do you have items that you can grab in short notice, throw in your vehicle? Do you have a kit in your vehicle? Do you already have some sort of prepping kit in vehicles? Those are things to think about. Plan A should be to always be able to have these items necessary to survive in your own home. Plan A should be you stay at home and you take care of your needs in case of some sort of emergency. You know you're good. But plan B, what if you have to leave your house? Do you have that plan? Do you know where you would be going? Okay, so think about that. What would we do if we had to leave our house? Tip number 6 would be to practice with the items you're prepping. It could be a camp stove. Do you have an old propane camp stove, or do you have a portable heaters? It could be lanterns. It could be cooking supplies. It could be food that you've been storing. Practice with that stuff. Find out if everything works well. You may find out that something doesn't work the way you thought it would in that type of situation, and you may be able to switch something out or get something that would be more useful. Some people get their items out and they really don't know how to use them. They just thought it was a good item to have, a just-in-case type item, but then they don't know what to do with it. So practice with your preps, okay? I can't stress that enough. Tip number 7 would be your own personal health and fitness. Now I know everybody's different, but if you can stay as healthy and as fit as possible, then you're going to be more apt to take care of emergency needs without exhausting yourself. You don't want to become the victim. Maybe you require medication or something for your health. Do you know what you would do in those cases where you had to survive on your own? You don't want, I'm thinking of what if there were bad storms in the area and I had to start cutting trees, off our house, or fixing the roof, or changing flat tires on a vehicle. Something like that could happen anytime you get a flat tire. Make sure your fitness and your health is not going to put your family in danger because now they have somebody else to care for. And tip number 8 would be develop a network of like-minded friends that are trying to be prepared like you are. Talk with them, have open communications with them. What is their plan B? What items work for them? Maybe that's something you had not thought of. You just bounce ideas off of each other and really help each other out. It's so much better if you're not trying to do this on your own. If you know that you've got other people out there to talk with and to get advice from, that means so much. And those type of people are really going to want to help you and your family. be prepared just as much as they want their family to be prepared in situations like this. So I wanted to give you just a few basic tips, things to think about if you want to begin prepping. These are all things that would get you started, get the ball rolling.
So be prepared so you don't have to live in a cave.
So I hope this helps, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. These 8 basic tips I will put in the description below. Give us a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, hit the little bell button, and it will notify you when we post new videos. So thanks for watching. Everybody be safe and healthy out there, and we'll catch you on the next video.